Hi guys, welcome to my most tutorials. Today we are solving quadratic expressions and we are going to be factorizing them. Okay, we are factorizing quadratic equations, which is very easy. Remember, with quadratic equations, they're in the form of ax squared plus bx plus a c. So today we'll be factorizing them. For example, our first question, we have x squared plus 11x plus a 24. So to factorize this one, it's very easy. You multiply your x squared by a 24, you get 24x squared. After doing that, you look for two numbers. When you multiply them, they will give you 24x squared, but when you add or subtract them, they will give you 11x. In this case, our factors are going to be 8x and 3x, right? 8 times 3 is 24. So in place of 11x, you then write x squared plus, in place of 11x, you then write 8x plus 3x plus a 24. And then you factorize by grouping. On this one, what's common is the x. We remain with the x plus 8. What's common this side is a 3. We also remain with the x plus 8. Your common bracket, you write it once. That will be x plus 8. And then x plus a 3 forms another bracket. Okay. So we have factorized this quadratic expression. And our factors are our factors is x plus 8 and x plus 3. Then the second example that we're going to look at today, it's p squared plus 2p minus a 15. We are having a negative now. We do the same. We multiply and then we get our negative 15p squared. Now let's look for two numbers. When we multiply them, they will give us a negative 15p squared. But when we add or subtract them, they will give us a positive 2 there. So it means one of the factors has to be negative. So which one would take the negative or the positive one? So you must always look at the middle term and its sign. So if the sign is positive, it means your bigger term will have a positive, then the smaller one will have a negative. So your bigger factor will always take the sign of your middle term, right? Take note of that. So now we have p squared. In place of 2p, we are going to write plus 5p minus a 3p minus a 15. Okay. Then let's factorize by grouping. P is common for the first one. And then we remain with a p plus 5. Minus 3 is common for the first one. And then we remain with a p plus 5 as well. So p plus 5, that's your common bracket. You write it once. And then the other bracket is going to be a p minus a 3. Okay. Hopefully you guys are following. And our next example, we are looking at k squared minus 13k, k squared minus 13k minus a 14. K squared minus 13k minus a 14. We do the same thing. You multiply your k squared by a minus 14. You get a negative 14k. Now let's look for two numbers. When you multiply them, they'll give us a negative 14k. So it's negative 14k squared, right? So those numbers, in this case, it's 14k and a k. But then remember, I said you look at the sign that you have on your middle term there. It's a negative. So your bigger factor will have the negative sign. And then just k will have a positive sign, right? So now we rewrite it as k squared plus k minus 14k minus a 14. I just chose to put minus 14 on the other side next to a 14. What's common between these two? It's a k. We remain with a k plus 1. What's common this side? It's a negative 14. We also remain with a k plus 1. So our final solution, our common bracket k plus 1 and a k minus 14. This one and that one, they form another bracket, right? So we factorize that one. And then we have another interesting one, which is v squared minus 9v plus an 18. V squared minus 9v plus 18. To factorize this one, we do the same. We're getting 18v squared. But then we're looking for two factors. When we multiply them, they will give us a positive 18v squared. But when we add them or subtract them, we must get a negative 9v. So which factors are those? We have a 6v and a 3v. But because the sign there is a negative sign, all of them are going to have a negative sign. Remember, when you multiply a negative in a negative, you get a positive. But when we add minus 6v plus minus 3v, we'll get a minus 9v, right? So now, in place of negative 9v, we'll write minus 6v minus 3v plus 18. We factorize by grouping. V is common. We remain with the v minus 6. That side minus 3 is common. We also remain with the v minus 6. So v minus 6 is our common bracket. And then v minus 3 forms the other bracket. Okay. Hopefully you guys are following. I know there are many ways of killing a cat, but this is the only way that we are going to look at today to factorize quadratic expressions in that form. But then we have a very, very special case, that you guys need to master as well. This is a very, very special case. Okay, this doesn't want to erase. Okay, we'll use another one. So we have a very, very special case where we say we have difference of two squares. The difference of two squares. Difference of two squares. So on difference of two squares here, I'm sure you still remember your first 10 square numbers, which is 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49, 64, 81, and 100. These are the first 10 square numbers that you need to be familiar with. So you must know their square roots as well. So when they give you a question like x squared minus 16, they ask you to factorize it. This is very simple. You ask yourself, what's the square root of x squared? It's just a x. The square root of a 16, it's a 4. So your answer will be x minus 4, x plus 4. That's it. It's one step to the answer. So it's a formula that you need to cram. What about if they say a squared minus 25? Do the same. The square root of a squared is a. So you write your a like that. A plus and a minus. So that's a plus. So this is going to be a minus. So the square root of 25 is a 5. So it's a minus 5 and a plus 5. So it doesn't matter whether you start with the plus or you start with the minus. So with this one, p squared minus 100, I can actually write it as p plus a 10. And a p minus a 10. Doesn't matter whether I start with the negative or the positive. Doesn't make any difference. Okay. So this one, we have 40 squared minus 49. All right. It's very easy. You know the square root of 4, it's a 2. For t squared, it's a t. So if you 2t, like that. What about the square root of 49? It's a 7. 2t minus 7, 2t plus 7. Then you are done. That's how easy it is, right? But then it gets a little bit tougher and tougher. For example, when they give us a question like this. Now, I'm sure you've realized all the other questions that we've been factorizing. The coefficient of x squared, it was 1. What about now? When the question is 2x squared minus x minus 3, what do I do? Same procedure. You multiply your 2x squared by minus 3, you get a negative 6x squared. Look for two numbers. When you multiply them, they will give you a negative 6x squared. But when you add or subtract them, they'll give you a negative x. In this case, it's just 3x and 2x. But then remember, I said you check your middle term, the signs are negative. So your bigger factor is going to take a negative sign. Why? Because we are having a minus 6x squared there, and a minus and a positive, they will give us a negative answer, right? So now, in place of minus x, we are writing plus 2x minus 3x minus a 3, and then we factorize by grouping. For this first group, 2x is common. I remain with x plus 1. The second group, minus 3 is common. I also remain with x plus 1. Okay, so my final solution, I have 2x minus 3 forming a bracket and x plus 1 forming another bracket. So we are done factorizing that one. I'm sure that was very easy. You are simply applying the same procedure. Okay, you are applying the same procedure, and then it gets tougher and tougher, but it's not tough. Equation can come like 8x squared minus 2x minus a 15. It can look like it's a very big number. Just do the same. 8x squared times a minus 15 will get a negative 120 x squared. Now we are looking for two numbers. When we multiply them, they will give us a minus 120 x squared. But when we add them, they must give us a minus 2. What are we going to do? Okay, the factors are very easy. It's 12x and 10x. You see how easy it is, especially when you know your timetables, you will not struggle with this one. So our factor is actually 12x and 10x, but we check the sign, there's a negative 2x. My bigger factor will get a negative sign. So now rewriting this, I'm having 8x squared. In place of minus 2x, I'm going to write minus 12x plus 10x minus a 15. Okay, so now I factorize by grouping. What's common on the first one? No, it's not an 8, it's a 4. So it's 4x into 8x squared, it's 2x. Okay, 4x on that one to be minus 3. What's common this side? I'll factor out a 5. We remain with 2x minus a 3. So our final solution is 4x plus a 5 and then 2x minus 3. Just like that. Okay, easy peasy. So now our next concept, we are going to be looking at completing the square formula. And after we have factorized using the completing of square formula, we will then move on to